Welcome everybody, back again with another episode of The Talk. This is episode number 10, so assuming I have to do something fancy for this one. Let me make sure my phone on silent because I tell you to put yours on silent, but make sure mine's. Like I say all the time, this episode, let's say you're watching the episode and you get up and you want to go somewhere, you can also listen to the episode on Spotify because you know when you're watching it on YouTube, if you close the app, you can't watch it anymore. So on Spotify, you can also listen to the podcast. But who I have with me today is Miss Gayle Charles, right?
Gayle Descartes.
Descartes?
Yes.
Okay.
I reverted to my mom's last name.
Okay. For the persons that don't know, just give a little brief something about yourself.
All right, guys. Well, as a few of you know, or if not most of you, my name is Gayle Descartes. Used to be Charles, but long story short, I reverted to my mom's last name.
Yeah.
I originally grew up in Sint Eustatius, and then I moved to Sint Eustatius when I was 12. So that would be in 2002.
Yeah.
So technically, I've been here for 20 years.
Oh, wow. A good while for sure.
Yes. A lot of people seem to have bad memory because even people who I went to school with tell me, I remember you from Golden Rock School, and I dying on the inside because I'm like, Golden Rock School? We never did that. I lived in Golden Rock.
Yeah.
But no. And my mom was the late Angela.
Yes.
And,
yes.
you know, she was in the Red Cross.
Yeah. That I can remember for sure.
Fun fact. I am also now a board member of the Red Cross.
Oh, that's nice. Full circle.
Yes. Due to the fact that my mom was such a dynamic person in there.
Yeah.
They were like, when I applied for the position, they were like, thank God.
And
I was like, I got y'all, you know? I'm very proud of that.
Yeah.
Big shoes to fill, but we're filling them.
That's where I actually remember you from, Red Cross.
Yeah?
Not school, but Red Cross for sure, because I can remember your mom. I can remember Cardo. I remember everybody usually used to go there. Yeah.
The clan.
I used to pedal my bike all the way from Whitewall, come all the way up by Red Cross.
Red Cross was fun.
Yeah, it was fun back then.
And I'm trying to... That's one of the things we want to do again.
Yeah, bring it
back. And I have a lot of people who were there with us at the time.
Yeah,
and they're like, I would like to volunteer. And I'm like, thank God, because we need the volunteers.
Exactly.
But, I am 32 years old. For those who don't know, a lot of people just be like, oh my God, you're 32. Yes, I am 32 years old and a Virgo.
Typically what has happened, usually, I just always ask a question where we're talking about mental health, but I'm happy to finally have an episode that I could dedicate to mental health. And when you're the first person I think about, so that's why I wanted to invite you to the episode.
I appreciate it.
My first question for you is, what's your thought on mental health in general? Let's say on Stacia in general.
Okay, I think we can do a lot more when it comes to mental health in Stacia. I think it is still something that is not talked about too much. I think a lot of people are still ashamed and afraid to come out. And the reason why I use the word ashamed is because a lot of us don't want to be labeled as something wrong with her.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to get side-eye according to the young people. Nobody wants to feel like, oh my God, like something is wrong with me. When the reality is nothing is really wrong with me.
Exactly.
But I feel as a community, when it comes to mental health, Stacia, we can do more because there's stuff that I went through, and I'm glad to be here tonight to tell you my story, or share some of my journey with you guys.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the things that I know now, if I knew them as a teenager, especially in the beginning phase and realizing that something was wrong with me, life would have been a lot different, I think.
Yeah.
And I did reach out for help. I did try to get help, but the help that you really needed was not available. Now things are way different. I will tell you guys that, but it can still be more different.
Yeah. But you see, things are very much different. On the island, we have a mental health place. I don't know the technical
mental health Caribbean.
Mental health Caribbean place. Did you get help via there, or was it you went away or something like that? How
it started was, I guess we're gonna start from my story. Moving to Stacia. What happened was I didn't realize that there was something going on with me. My mom is who actually realized it. And what she did was she decided to put me to the school counselor, which was Jerry Maduro at the time. And she said, you know what? Get some help. So I would go to Jerry Maduro maybe 2 or 3 times a week, depending on what was going on. And the thing about it is, when you have a parent like mine, which I am always grateful for, is the fact that she was, hey, something is going on with my daughter, before her daughter was like, hey, there's something going on with me. And mind you guys, I went through a lot of traumatic stuff in my childhood. I went through my childhood was a lot of trauma. But I didn't know that, hey, you're supposed to go look for help. It was because my mom, and I remember this was her words clearly, she wanted to break generational curses. She did not want that same relationship she had with her mom, that dynamic, to be the same relationship we had. Because their relationship was not it. And I appreciated her for that. I always appreciate her for that. So it started out with counseling from high school. And then eventually it blossomed into me always feeling like it cannot just be depression. Because they always say, oh, depression, anxiety. And I said, it cannot just be, because on the inside, there was a lot of things going on with the way I felt. And then later on in life, because Jeremy Duru left, I became the peer counselor, actually. From the experience at the Red Cross. And just, I guess, the person that I am, I picked up some stuff along the way while being in therapy. And what used to happen is, because Jerry Maduro left, a lot of the kids didn't like going to the person who was the counselor at the time. So they needed a mediator. What would happen is, you would come to me, and if it's really bad, I would talk to the principal, and if it was okay with you, or I'll talk to my mom, and then we will go further. If it is, because there's something that could happen with just the payers, and a payer counselor, which is something that I think they also need here. They are able to reach the youth or reach the younger group, because they are young too. And because that person has had, like myself, so you went through so much, now you can help other people cope. It's like using your story to help other people. So I was like, okay, so when the other lady came, I was a peer counselor, and that, for a while, that was pretty good, because we had training from the Red Cross for that. And then eventually, when I graduated and stuff, because for a while, everything seemed like they were pretty okay. You know? And then I graduated and I went to school. Things was a little patchy, but I still had my mom at the end of the day to call and say, you know what, today sucked, or this happened, or that happened, or for motivation. Hey, you got this, you could do it. And people don't understand how far those things go. You know, when your parent call you away for school, and sometimes, especially in being in Curacao with the culture differences and the language barrier, you need somebody to tell you, hey, wake up, you got this. Don't let that keep you down. And that was a good help for me. And then after my mom passed, it still is, you know, very difficult. And I reached out to Mental Health Caribbean, and unfortunately, and I say unfortunately, it's because the woman who was there at the time, she came from Curacao, and she did not speak very much English. So when I spoke to her about my experiences, the stuff that she picked up from what I said, I wasn't too pleased, because it also made me feel as if she understood nothing that I said. So I let that to be known to them, and I told them that I wouldn't be coming back because I don't feel like I'm being helped. You know? So I left that alone, and I tried to thug it out on my own. But it really, after a while, there's only so much you could do. And one of the analogies I use is, for me, my problems, picture a shelf. You have a wooden shelf, masterfully built, which is us, life. And what I did was, every time I had a problem, I just put it in a can and I put it on the shelf. But eventually, over the years,
the shelf gone.
Not just the shelf. You didn't notice that the roof was leaking. And then the water, every time it rained, it seeped through. So you keep packing stuff on the shelf, until one day the shelf decides, you know what? Mold, damage, and everything breaks.
That's what happened.
You understand? I had one of those in 2019. And when I tell you, it was a lot. Like, I will open up about certain things tonight. This is like an exclusive, according to Jacquil. I'm sharing very personal stuff. And one of the things that I am proud of myself about is having the courage to actually share this. Because a lot of you guys don't understand how personal this is. This is not something that anybody just says, oh, you know what? I want to share this. But my reason for sharing is because I want my story one day to be able to help some young person out there, or some other person, because you never know. You know? And in 2019, things got so bad that I had like a suicide attempt where I attempted to take my life, but it didn't work out because here I am. And I don't believe in coincidences. I believe everything happens for a reason, the way it should, when it should, how it should. When God give you steps, you don't worry about reaching over there before your time. You just take your time.
You're gonna make it.
And and I remember what happened was I was going through a lot mentally. Remember the analogy of the shelf? My shelf was broken. I, from the outside, I gave you the facade, like, oh my God, you know the Gayle everybody knows, bouncy people person. But on the inside, I was drowning, y'all. You know, I was drowning. And I remember I said something to my son's dad, but he didn't really pick up on it. And then he was like, yeah, I'll see what I can do. And I was like, instead of me, he went, you know. And then I remember that Monday, I want to believe it was a Monday.
Yeah.
But I know it was a school day because I took my son to school.
Yeah.
And then I came home and I wrote a letter because I was done.
Yeah.
And even in the letter, there was not much for me to say, you know. I was just basically telling my son that I love him and that I tried, but I guess it wasn't, my trying didn't feel like, because you guys, there is so much, like me and Jacquil could be here all for a long time. And I'm glad you decided to come. It. You know, there were stories for a long time.
Yeah.
And even things I don't get to say here tonight, if you ever see me on the road and you want to ask about it, sure, I'm open to discuss.
Yeah.
But I turned around and I was like, you know what? I was done. And to be honest with you guys, we grew up in the church, so I even prayed. I even prayed before doing what I did.
Yeah.
And this is another thing too, where my scars come in, because a lot of people see my scars on my hand, and what they don't know is that as a teenager, I used to self-harm. And that's one of the symptoms of my disorder. I recently got diagnosed in January. We'll get back to that later.
Yeah.
But with the scars, I used to be really like ashamed of them in a way, because what happens is, and this is one of the things that you look for with people who have what I have, or whether it be depression or whatever they're going through. When you see self-harm starting to form, then you know it's really serious. Because what happens, one of the things I want to tell you about self-harm is, because a lot of people see it and they don't really understand it. If I have a knee, I hit my knee, I can tell you, Jacquil, my knee hurts.
Yeah.
If I get in an accident and I get a concussion, Dr. Odongo, whoever can say, you know what, you have a concussion, da, 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 da. But when you have emotional pain and you do not know how to bring it up, it is easier in a sense to, you get a cut and you feel better. But why? It's not necessarily that you feel better. It's temporary relief for the time. So what happens is you cut yourself and you are able to say, this hurts.
Yeah.
But reality is that's not what hurt. The hurt is on the inside.
Yeah.
And one of the, I have a fun, well, I could call it a fun story now about that, is being in Take a L3 with Ashanti principal, who is one of my very good friends to this day, like my sister. Big up yourself.
Young baby fresh.
Yeah. And she had a situation with one of her brothers, from what I understood, and he too used to self-harm.
Yeah.
And what happened was, it's not my story to tell, but there was something that happened and it went a little too far and it kind of impacted her.
Yeah.
So there was one day, because I never told anybody that I was self-harming. This is something that, like I said, it's you feel shame because of all the stuff that you went through, all the stuff, you know? And I'll get into it, don't worry.
Yeah.
So I remember sneaking off to the bathroom, and she saw me take the parcel. You know the parcel from Whisking the Youth? It has a very sharp point.
Yeah.
What would happen is, if I was too quiet for too long, all the memories from all the sexual abuse and everything would start coming back, and there was no way for me to sit down and tell somebody in the middle of class, oh, I'm having flashbacks, PTSD. Yeah. No, 32-year-old me now can call it what it is, PTSD. And at that time, I didn't know.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I went to the bathroom, and she called the teacher. And I remember your father Rops, also one of my favorite teachers. For that same reason, she ran to the bathroom because Ashanti told her whatever she told her, and she came in and I heard pop, 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 pop on the doors, and I was like, what is happening? You know what I mean? What's going on in the bathroom? Open the door, there's the teacher, and she was like, Ashanti said that you came in the bathroom with something sharp, and what is happening here? What is, because as a teacher, you want to know what's going on with your student.
Exactly.
And you remember teachers that kid. I don't care what nobody say, you remember those people.
Yeah.
And you guys, honestly, I couldn't share. There was a time that I really couldn't share what was going on because I myself didn't even know what was going on, you know? And one of the things that a lot of people, you guys are now going to learn, is that when I first moved here, I came from St. Lucia, living with my aunt and her husband, to moving with my mom.
Yeah.
And I didn't trust adults because the adults that was left to take care of me, I wouldn't say that they didn't do such a great job, but they didn't do such a great job. You know? Yeah. When it came to feeding you and like basic needs, things that you should do when you have a child, it was okay. You know, roof over our head. They were well off.
But you're supposed to do that. You got a child, that's
what
you're supposed to do.
When it comes to nurturing and I love you and you're smart and you got this, and it was a lot of negative stuff.
Yeah.
And then on top of all of that, I was being sexually molested. And that went on because I moved to that house when I was 7. So that happened from 7 till 12 because I left that house at 12.
So that was the reason that you left to came to here?
No. I left to come to Stacia because my mom then moved to Statia with the Red Cross. Because what happened
okay. My mom, she was doing with the Red Cross before. Yeah. Oh, okay.
My mom had me at 19.
Yeah.
And when she was about 20 or something, her grandmother sent her to St. Martin.
Okay.
Because if anybody remembers St. Martin back in the day, St. Martin was like mini New York. Yeah, opportunities, you know, work, everybody, different Caribbean islands. If you can't get to America, you get to St. Martin.
Yeah.
And that's what happened. They sent her there. So what happened was I was left by my aunt, by my grandmother, by another aunt, up to your own devices. Yeah. You're doing all kind of things. And then they decided, you know, in St. Lucia we call it duive. Yeah. I don't know how you call it here. Maybe when the kids go from one house to the next, you just up and down living your life. Because in the 90s we didn't have all the devices we had now. So you had to walk up and down to go, you know.
Exactly.
So they felt like I was doing too much of that. And because they felt that my aunt was the Christian home, you know, they was like, let's send Gayle there.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. So there I went, and that was a story by itself. You know? And one of the wildest things about that whole thing is, during the whole time that I was being sexually molested, I remember the man telling me, if you tell anybody, the police is going to come for you.
Yeah.
And then as a child, living in St. Lucia, when you hear the police coming for you,
you just automatically believe it.
Not just believe it. This was not no Officer Butch and hey, Officer Patrick, you know, you got to no. It's a Lucia. When you see the police, you get scared. You understand? Because something going on. And as a child, well, you know, you just know you're impressionable, so you just know what you've been told.
Exactly.
And he used to tell me, and don't like you, which is something that wasn't too hard to see by the way that I was being treated. And she always used to call me a liar. That's why now I don't play these games. You see, when it comes to the truth, we outside. It doesn't matter for me. If you're going to do something and you have to lie about it after, man, what's the point?
Yeah, exactly. I just say it straight as it is.
Say it with your chest.
Yeah, exactly. And then when you was going through that traumatic experience, there wasn't no one else that have like a hint of something.
It was, listen, this man is a pastor, and up to today he's still a pastor. You understand?
Hell no.
Up to today. Fun fact, I was in St. Lucia recently, and I did go to the church with them. Talk about forgiveness.
How was the experience like that?
Honestly,
isn't that like reliving?
No. You want to know why? Because I remember I live on Statia for 20 years. And I had not gone to St. Lucia for 13 years.
Okay.
And a lot of people didn't understand, why you coming home? You don't go where you don't feel love, guys. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like, what?
Exactly.
And being away for 13 years, I had a lot of time to process.
Okay.
I fantasized about killing the man that molested me. And another thing too, guys, it wasn't just one molestation. Just me tell you, we have stories for we hear.
Yeah.
And with him, I went through the anger of being molested, the why me, I did all of that in Statia, because one of the things when I finally told my mom, the reason I told my mom is because I was going to school with a friend. I'm not going to call any names because it's a private story. I was going to school with a friend who also was going through the same thing.
Okay.
And because she was going through the same thing, I remember exactly where we stopped, because Statia, memorable.
Yeah.
There was a place on my way home, because I used to live in Little Rock at the time. We stopped under a particular tree, and I said to her, I'm not going to be able to come by your house today. Yeah. And the girl started crying. Yeah. And I was like, what is happening? Because that was new for me.
Exactly.
Apparently, when she finally was able to speak, what I was made to understand was that me coming by her in the afternoon saved her from being sexually molested. Yeah. And then, because I couldn't go that day, the fear. Yeah. So I also remember getting in trouble that day because I had feel for her in the sense I was like I felt like I needed to be a superhero at the time. Like, you know what? I'm going to get cussed off, but I'll go still. You know what I mean? At least for the time. Exactly. And then when she have to do whatever she have to do, I'll go back home. Yeah. Okay. She sat there and she said, man, if you don't want to tell your mother, why, imagine me, you know what I mean? Yeah. And that hit me really hard. Yeah. Because coming to Statia, I made friends and I could have been open about, hey, you know what, this happened to me, that happened to me, this is what's going on. Because a lot of time people will see you and they'll be like, what's going on with you? Yeah. You good now? And then all of a sudden you're not good. Like, what is happening? Yeah. And I remember people used to make jokes and say, oh, Gayle is crazy, Gayle bipolar, da-da-da-da-da. And none of those jokes were never really funny to me. Yeah. You know? And when you're going through something and you're not even sure what you're going through, how do I explain that to anyone? Exactly. So what happened was on that day, we made a pact. We're going to go home. I tell her, you know what? I'm going to tell my mother. You going to tell your mother because it's not right.
Exactly.
And I went home and I told my mom. My mom, station is tiny. I think we drive around station about 17 to 20 times that day.
Yeah.
My mother could not believe because she felt like I put you with Christian people. You know what I mean? Like
that's the last thing she expected. To happen.
What? This woman drive around station and she cried. But unfortunately, my friend didn't get the same
reaction
from her mom. It was, are you sure?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then it became a whole situation, and it just goes to show that you never know where.
Exactly.
And this is your mom.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Bro, that thing broke my heart. That situation broke my heart. And because I was able to, because with the help of my mom, not everybody had Angela.
Yeah.
I was able to start speaking up more. So in the Red Cross groups and everything, so then we had a sleepovers.
Yeah.
We would have group discussions and I would share my story.
Okay.
And that would enable other girls to come out and tell their story.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people think that this doesn't happen on station, but it really does.
I was just gonna.
It really does, and it's just the shame, the shame of everybody going to know he touched me.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah. But he should be ashamed.
Exactly.
He's the one that whoever the molester is, the abuser is, they are the one that should feel this way, not the victim.
Exactly.
And a lot of the times we as the victim, well, I'm not a victim anymore, I'm a victor.
Yeah.
But those people, they feel as if like, oh my God, everybody going to know. Oh, I don't want people to know.
Yeah.
But what happens is, because there were times when in the 20 years that I've been on station, there were times when I felt like I should have said something publicly in St. Lucia. That way, maybe if it happened to somebody else, it could stop.
Yeah.
Because they always say, you always learn that it's not just one person.
Yeah.
And to go back to you saying that if there was anybody who ever saw anything, no. And Jacquil, the time when I noticed what was being done to me, moving from Ant 1 to Ant 2, I used to go to the school, Capacity Combined School, and there was the teacher named Gregory Wilson.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it was something that was happening to another student or if something was happening in the community, but they decided to hold an assembly.
Yeah.
Especially because of sexual abuse.
Yeah.
And just like when you go to church and the pastor's talking something and he look at the crowd and you feel he looking at you and he know that you were doing something yesterday.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And he telling you need to, and you start to feel like, oh my God,
Yeah.
what is happening?
Yeah.
So imagine I was about 8 or 9 in this assembly. Imagine your first time hearing what is being done to you.
Yeah.
And this has been going on for over a year.
Yeah.
So I watching the teacher and she's talking about how as a child, older people, they're not supposed to touch you where, in your private places.
Yeah.
And that it's not okay, and that even if they tell you, this is basically what I was being told, the police are going to come for you. It's a lie.
Yeah.
But you got to remember, I learned all these things while in therapy. Being groomed. When you're being groomed, you're being groomed.
Yeah.
You understand? So it doesn't matter what the teacher say. Oh, tell the police. Oh, tell an adult you trust.
Yeah.
I don't trust them already because one ain't making me feel loved and I been touched over there in the corner.
Exactly,
you know what I mean? Like what?
Exactly.
So I remember her up there and she's talking about what it is, that it is sexual abuse and that it's not right. Passed right out.
Yeah.
The last thing I remember was hearing her talking, and I was just not.
Just like
I fainted in the crowd because I couldn't. I couldn't really process what was going on.
Yeah.
So I passed out, and then when she asked me, "But what happened to you today? How come this happened?" I lie and I tell her I didn't have breakfast.
Yeah.
But it was because the information that I was receiving was too much for me, and I just
exactly
passed out. And then even then. You still don't know how to feel because you got to remember the grooming was already happening before now you knowing what is happening.
Yeah.
And we used to go to these church camps because these church people, like I told you. And I remember at one of the camps, one of the things that made me cry and it really worked on my brain is because I remember the woman saying, abusers become abusers.
Yeah.
And I was like, what the hell?
Yeah.
Are you going to start touching children?
Yeah.
I was like, what?
Yeah.
No. And then she was like, not all the time, but it's part of it. If things don't go unchecked, if you don't, and then they was talking about all these things that could happen, and you have to remember when you're being groomed,
yeah,
and somebody trying to tell you something else. That's like growing up your whole life they're telling you that this red shirt is how you get into heaven.
Yeah,
that's all you know, and now somebody's trying to tell you
something
no.
No.
It's the blue shirt.
Yeah.
You will think that person you tried to kill me. Exactly. You tried to do something to me, you know?
Exactly.
That's how I felt.
Exactly.
And I was like, all these people, you know, like, whoa.
But then, with the because remember you said I had a friend, and she went to her mother and she got a different reaction. Then where does she go then?
That was the thing. Both of us was young then, and to be honest with you, me as an adult, I wish there was a place that she could have, even if now we have the shelter. Yeah. But I wish there was a shelter. I wish there was a Jerry Maduro at the time, or whoever, somebody at Mental Health Caribbean. I really wish at that time that there was somebody that could have said, "What do we do next?"
Exactly.
You know, because at the end of the day, and that's why I told you, it went from not so great to now you're actually doing something. Yeah. Because now, what is going to happen to the other young ladies now who are going through that?
That's what I mean.
We didn't have and then this happened. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Because you got to remember now, she come out and she talk. Yeah. But at the same time, because her mother don't believe it, or her mother going through, whatever her mother going through, taboo now to tell the rest of the people. Yeah, exactly. What do I do? Where do I go? Who do I go by? You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And one of the things people don't really know is that these types of abuse, whether it be physical, sexual, mental, emotional, they shape you. They change they change who you are. Yeah. You know, they make you somebody different. Yeah. Because growing up, I remember finally opening up to one of my best friends about this. I told her, growing up, you wanted to be a teacher. You wanted to be this. You wanted to be that. But people, if I have to tell people what I really thought that I would have been, they would have been like, whoa. You know, like, whoa. Yeah. I thought that there was a point in my life that I was going through so much crap, sexual molestation, sexual abuse type, that I actually felt like I would have just probably ended up like one of these people who just that's probably what they're going to do for their profession. Yeah. Mind you, not knowing anything about sex. Yeah. Not knowing anything about orgasms or nothing. Yeah. Just this person using you for whatever they're using you for. And you just figure, you know what, maybe that's all I'll be my whole life. Because you got to remember, your self-esteem is shot. Yeah. Your sense of being is shot. You don't know who you're supposed to be. You understand me? And as a child, that's why I just tell my son from a small age, don't keep secrets. Yeah. Because when you practicing children to keep secrets, you're making little monsters. Exactly. You know? Yeah, and that could go either way, and that's not good. Yeah. And another time, my mom was married. That's what I'm going to say, guys. I'm being frightened. My mother was married to a man from Nevis named Troy something. Yeah. And part of me wants to feel that it's Mills, but I will just leave it there. Yeah. So Troy something. And I was 9 when she got married to him. Okay. And at 9 years old, I got my period, guys. And I look at my son now, and I'm like, because my son is 9. Yeah. And I'm trying to imagine it, and it's not clicking. Yeah. And in psychology, you learn that happened because you were being sexual as a young age, so your body developed fast. Yeah. So that's where you got your period early. Yeah. Yeah. And I kind of fall in a black hole there, Jacquil.
You say your son is now 9, and that your mother.
Yes, I was talking about my mom's first marriage. Thank you. Yeah. So yes. My mom was married to this man, and I remember being in St. Martin, because that's way before I knew anything about Stacia. Yeah. Being in St. Martin, she used to live, anybody who really knows St. Martin, you know, in Cahill, have an ace. We used to live in the lot opposite there. Okay. So summers were very long, like 2 months you have summer vacation, so I used to come and visit her. Yeah. So she married to this man. Mind you, in St. Lucia, when I used to sit on my, whatever you want to call him, step uncle, whatever, sit on his lap, there was a point in time where my aunt told me that it's not okay. Yeah. Because he's not your dad. Yeah. You shouldn't do that. Yeah. But the reason why I became comfortable sitting on his lap is because things was happening that we hope that she didn't know about. You know, that kind of way. Things was going on where things was not supposed to be going on. So you felt comfortable, hey, just sit on the lap. Because you're already groomed to do those things. Yeah. And my aunt is like, no, that's not okay. And one of the things I remember her saying to me is, well, now you have your father, so you can sit on his lap. Yeah. You know, and I was like, okay. Because I got a lot of that. I got a lot of, you're here because your mom doesn't care, your dad doesn't care. Yeah. And what people don't understand is, when it comes to abuse, for me, it's not just sexual. You know, there's the verbal. Yeah. And I wouldn't necessarily say physical per se, because sometimes we needed the licks.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now you learn that some of the licks that you got was not okay.
Yeah.
But at the time, it was what it was.
Yeah.
You know, but to be telling somebody that they're not wanted, they only here because.
Yeah.
You know, those things ain't nice.
Yeah.
Those things, no child should be told.
Especially when young.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And having to pretend to be this person, you know, like pretend to be okay, and then you're being molested.
Yeah.
And then your aunt don't like you, so you're living in the house and you're feeling like, you know, it's a lot.
Yeah.
And I think, I know that that's where my borderline personality disorder stems from.
Okay.
That's my diagnosis.
Yeah.
I got a diagnosis in January this year.
Yeah.
And sadly, I had to wait all those years to find out that.
Yeah.
You know? And my borderline personality disorder stems from childhood abuse over a long period of time. Because I think from the time we have sat there, I've told you about 2 different men. Yeah? And then there was another time. Right?
So
I've been through some stuff. That's why I tell you, we could be here for quite some time.
I have 6 hours, so
no problem. You know?
Yeah.
I'm just trying to give you guys like the major stories so you understand maybe why Gayle is the way Gayle is.
Yeah.
When I moved to Stacia, over the years, there was somebody who I became really close with.
Yeah.
You know? Figured that was my friend. We would go there. Me and another friend, we would go there, we would hang out.
Yeah.
So then this other friend, she left, and because you know that's Stacia. You're going to meet somebody and then they got to go away for school.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So now you got to figure it out again.
Yeah.
So I still felt it was safe to be going by this person's house.
Yeah.
I still went. Silly me.
Yeah.
So one day, and this is like
how old you are? How old
in that time, maybe 16, 17.
Okay.
Because I became involved with somebody that I probably shouldn't have been involved with at that age.
Yeah.
You know, we always dipping our toes in the waters.
Yeah.
And he was friends with somebody, and I guess the guys talk.
Yeah.
So the person was like, yeah, okay. She seems like a nice girl if you catch my drift.
Yeah.
And I remember being by him, and this is normal stuff. This is to the point where you're so comfortable, the person will be like, yeah, going to take a shower. And you'll be like, okay, fine. Yeah. Not that there was nakedness, but that's you there that long, you know?
Yeah.
So this became normal. So one day, regular Jacquil.
Yeah.
He was like, I'm going to take a shower. And I was like, cool. Then he came up to the bathroom and he pretended that he forgot something. Now this is somebody who was bigger than me.
Yeah.
So they took my hand, took this hand, put it here, and then they took this hand and they put it up here.
Yeah.
Anybody put you in that position, try to come out of it. I dare you.
Yeah.
With your own body weight on your hand and one hand up here.
Yeah.
And he shimmied out of his towel. So he uses, obviously, you know, he has control because his body weight is on my body, and took off you can imagine, right? And basically, long story short, I was raped by this guy.
Yeah.
This is somebody who I trusted with, was my friend.
Yeah.
And if I tell you, after the rape, for him it was a big joke. This man thought he had accomplished something so good. And he said to me, yeah, now I can tell so-and-so that it's good for true. You know? And I was like, I remember being baffled, tears in my eyes, and this guy watching me. Because I'm still in shock. She's trying to process what the hell just happened.
But I ain't shocked right now. Just
okay.
Because I'm trying to understand
where the joke is, right?
Yeah.
And he telling me, yeah, you ain't gonna cry, man. I ain't gonna tell him again. You crying because I said I'm gonna tell him. The dunce ain't notice. You just take something that wasn't yours.
Yeah.
And the what you grab out of it is, I gonna tell so and so how it was.
Yeah.
And bro, you have a daughter. Like what? Yo.
I trying to process in my mind.
Left from there being so confused. I never went back.
Yeah.
I never dealt with the person after that.
Yeah.
Yes, I have seen them in public because Stacia is small, but when that person sees me, they put down their head.
Yeah.
And I remember getting a text because then it wasn't the phones that we have now. It was the really take your time and text sex. You know?
Yeah.
And he sent me a message after I got home and he was like, yeah, if you was crying because I said I was going to tell him, I ain't going to tell him again. And I'm still trying to process. You really thought that it was given to you? That's how people just get it now?
Yeah.
You didn't get it, you took it.
Yeah.
And then now you think I crying because you gonna tell somebody.
Exactly.
No, I crying because I trusted you and you effed up.
Yeah, exactly.
You understand? And for a while, in that moment, I ain't gonna lie to you, I have a few friends that I confided in the name of the person too, but this is not something that I came out with or I went to the police or, you know?
Yeah.
Again, grooming and fear. From something that happened a long time
ago.
Exactly. You know? But then I did start to act different because trauma.
Yeah.
And my mom noticed, and then she was trying to find ways to get me to talk to her. Yeah. And this is one thing that I tell you guys, I'm not encouraging this, young ladies.
Yeah.
Speak out. But for me, I put it in the box and I locked it. Yeah. And I was like, you know what? And one of the things I did too, I prayed about it. And I said, you know what, God, I don't wish this for his daughter. Because usually somebody would say, yes, what should do to your daughter?
Yeah, exactly.
I said, you know what? I don't wish this. I don't wish it for her daughter.
Yeah.
And I wish, I felt bad because I felt like I should have known better, like I should have seen. And that's one of the things with being a victim, having had gone through these things, is because you just always think it's your fault.
Yeah.
Or if I didn't wear that dress. Or if I didn't do this. Sometimes you do nothing. People, whoever's attacking you, they have the problem.
Exactly.
You are not the problem.
Yeah, yeah.
You know? And I prayed and I said, you know what? And I think maybe too the whole small community thing, the same thing that I just told you about, why people don't speak out, it happened, you know, with me in that situation. Because it's like you really just let that happen to you and then you just ain't say nothing. You understand what I mean?
Because like technically if you're in a small place, let me say you say something about it, even though everybody gonna know, the good part is everybody know.
Yeah. And one of the things I felt would have been said was, what you were doing there.
Yeah.
But this is a place that I was always going. You understand?
Yeah.
But somebody would have said, you always think, oh, what's somebody going to say? They're going to say, oh, you shouldn't have been. This is the same thing after. You shouldn't have wear the dress. You shouldn't have do this. Maybe I shouldn't have walked like that. Maybe I shouldn't have said hi, you know?
Yeah.
But it's really not your fault. People do things and things happen, unfortunately.
So if let's say another woman or a girl come to you and say the same exact thing happened to them, now that happened to you back then, what advice would you give them?
Seek help. Because when someone takes from you, you maybe today, 2 months from now, 3 months from now, you don't notice the effect on you, but trust me, baby girl.
Yeah.
There's an effect.
Yeah.
Because it took me to be 32 years old to find out not only what's going on with me, but to also realize that from all these abuses, those things that happened when I was 7, I'm 32.
Yeah.
Sitting down, talking to my psychologist, doing a PTSD test.
Yeah.
Jacquil, the things that I found out about myself shake me.
Yeah.
She told me, you sure you don't have any more triggers? And I was like, no, man, I good. And then I started to think. And I was like, oh, crap. You cannot touch me if I don't allow you to touch me.
Yeah.
You cannot, even my closest friend cannot just come and give me a hug. You know? I don't like people, like it brings you back to being like, hey, like what is happening?
Yeah.
And it took me 22 to realize, oh, you sis.
Yeah.
What's happening? And that's kind of scary because there's a lot of other things that have to do with the same PTSD as different aspects of my life that I will not talk about right now.
Yeah.
But that made me realize, like, hey, even being intimate with somebody, I realized that, you know, sometimes you all in it and you caressing and thing. Sometimes I catch myself like this. That ain't normal.
Yeah.
You know, that's not an okay response.
Yeah.
You know? So, yeah, it's...
But you just say in the middle of it, you went to Mental Health Caribbean a while back. What made you go back next time to and then you finally got your diagnosis?
Well, after the collapsing of the shelf in 2019, I definitely went back and remember I told you, I don't believe in coincidences?
Yeah.
In high school, Jerry Maduro helped me find me, helped me understand me.
Yeah.
Even if it wasn't perfect, because she was only a counselor then.
Yeah.
And I remember her leaving. I remember I told her that's when I began to play counselor because she said she was going to finish school to become a psychologist.
Yeah.
Boom, bam, flash, into the future. Who do I find at Mental Health Caribbean when the shelf collapsed? Jerry Maduro.
Imagine that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because the person who was there at the time, honestly, I had no confidence in her. Yeah. And one thing about me, if you're going to be helping this dome, I need to have confidence in you. You need to look like you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So I spoke to Yeti and I told her how I felt and I explained to her, hey, you know, Jerry Maduro is here. She's a psychologist. You should, you know. And that's who helped in that time. And what we decided was, because Jerry was going to leave, was that when whoever comes next, then I'm going to continue and really work on finding out what happened. Yeah. Because even in 2019, there was a talk, but it wasn't as serious. It wasn't like, this is your diagnosis. It was like, you just might have borderline personality disorder.
Yeah.
And I was like, what is that?
Yeah.
excuse me. And I remember when I told my friends about this, or when I found out, it was not the easiest thing, but I told them. And I remember one of my friends said to me, does that mean today you're going to be Gayle and tomorrow you're going to be Butterfly? And I said, no, that's multiple personality disorder. The borderline comes because never not really knowing who you are as a child. So you always feel as if like, you know, what am I to do? And that's why now it's a beautiful thing going back into realizing things that I loved or things that maybe I really like to do and I didn't, like I put it back behind me. Yeah. Like, for example, poetry. I always said, when I can get back to writing poetry, then I know I'm really healing. Yeah. Every day we outside. You understand?
Which is a good thing. Which is a good thing.
Listen, guys, when it comes to me and my journey, 2 years ago, this version of me did not exist. Yeah? I never saw myself as makeup wearing Gayle. Yeah. Girly Gayle. Yeah. You know what I mean? What? If I had to interview myself 2 years ago and you would tell me this would be me, I would be like, man, stop your nonsense. You know what I mean? Stop it. Just stop it. But I am very, guys, you people have no idea how proud I am of myself. And that's why it starts. Because I cannot wait for you to be proud of me. Or for the whoever to be proud of me. I have to start with me. And one of the things, when you start to feel good about you from the inside, it shows from the outside. You understand? And people, I like when people tell me, you know, you're looking really good. Like, what are you doing different? Nothing. I am just no longer being salty or no longer being bitter or no longer holding on to things that don't serve me. You know? And you talk to me about how did it feel going to St. Lucia and encountering those people. Listen, one of the trophies I want to give myself, if I had to give myself Oscars, I would need one then. Because I remember coming from the airport and I said to myself, me visiting those people. Screw those people. And then my aunt picked me up and I was like, I don't know. I don't know if it was the welcome I get from her. I don't know what it was. But something said, you know what? Pull up. And I remember telling my aunt, we should stop by your sister. And she was laughing because she knows the situation. And she was like, no. We ain't doing that. And I went up. And then the next day, I told them I'm going to visit them. And everybody was like, you know. So I went. And I remember walking up the step to the house, thinking to myself, whew, how is this going to go? You know what I mean? 13 years, you know, it's been a while. What's going on? When I pull up, I think my aunt, if she could have like come out of her body and go back in, she would have been like, she said, for a minute, I thought it was your mother. But, oh my God, yes, because nobody knew I was coming. My aunt that I told that I was coming to pick me up, she didn't tell anybody. So it was a surprise for everybody. And I remember walking in the house and I hugged her and stuff. And I looked at the man and the man looked at me. And I looked at him. And say what you want. He look at me and he say, my. You know, like, because it's been a while. And then he asked for a hug. Uncomfortable, but I gave him the hug still, you know? And then in that moment I noticed, I said, Gayle, you really, this is maturity on levels you have no idea. Because you could have chose to come here. The same thing. And because remember that I don't fantasize. I had a while to finesse about blowing up this man's life. I already pictured myself. I used to say I would go on a Sunday for spite while he preaching, just walk in the church and say, really? You're still out here? This is what you're doing still? You know what I mean? There were many ways that I pictured just make like just like embarrassment, you know?
But what made you don't want to do it?
Not just healing, but also realizing that I'm bigger than that. You understand?
Exactly.
I wanted them to see that despite the scars and the opinions of the tattoos or whatever, Gayle done, he done, you know, like from there. And the hug was a release for me. Because when I hugged both him and my aunt, I told myself, I didn't tell them, I released myself from you. You understand? Because being in Station for 20 years, holding on to this, that's insane. Feeling like you can't be you know, like all kind of things.
More than half your life.
Going on in your mind and you checking like, no. When you let go of people who hurt you, things that no longer serve you, things that make you feel not the way you want to feel. There's a saying that says, people who try to remind you of the person you're not trying to be anymore, you need to stay away from them. All those things fall in that same category.
Yeah.
Because I'm proud of myself for being able to say, I release myself of you. Like, I'm no longer letting you guys have so much hold on my emotion.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, because I honestly feel I have high blood pressure up to this day because of those situations.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Exactly.
And I don't want to be unhealthy. At least not in that sense.
Yeah.
I don't want to get cancer because I'm holding on to something.
Stress.
So long.
Yeah.
You know? Because what happens is when I live in the shame and I live in the fear, they're winning.
Yeah.
They're winning.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
So when I pull up and I show you, you didn't kill me.
Yeah.
I still here on these 2 feet.
Yeah.
Strong, firm, with the God that you feel you serving, mine bigger. You understand?
Yeah.
Then those people will realize, hey, this girl's strong. And a fun fact about the strong, independent woman talk.
Yeah.
Guys, I used to feel that was such an insult. When somebody tell me, oh, you so strong.
Yeah.
I used to want to just, like
strangle
Homer Simpson. And just strangle because, people don't understand how exhausting it is to be the strong person. Because having to be strong all the time is exhausting, guys.
Yeah.
So now for 2023, I'm a fragile flower.
Yeah.
Not an independent, strong black woman.
Yeah.
I is a fragile flower. And I want to be treated as such.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Exactly.
Yeah?
And how you feel about, because you say you used to do the peer
education?
Peer education. Do you think that's something that needs to come back?
I feel it needs to come back.
Yeah.
Why? It doesn't necessarily have to be someone who is a teenager. But to have a young person that other young people could come and speak to and say, hey, I have this going on. Hey, I have that going. Because honestly, not everybody wants to go to the original counselor and hear, well, you know, Jesus something or God.
Yeah.
Not everybody really trying to hear that.
No.
Yes, we know that you mean well.
Yeah.
But when I am going through, when whatever is going on right now, you know?
Yeah.
No one is looking for you to tell them, oh, Jesus got you.
Exactly,
we know.
exactly.
But at the time, that's not what we're feeling. You know?
Yeah, exactly.
Sometimes you just need somebody to listen.
Yeah.
Somebody who can relate.
Yeah.
And I think because me having had gone through all my experiences, I could have related.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And one of the things that really sad, even still now, is to see, I was telling this to one of my good friends, Shinati, someday there. We were sitting down and we was discussing, if you want to call them, wayward girls. The girls that everyone says they fast, they this. Oh, why she always in trouble? Why she just... Ask what happened in her life that make her so.
Yeah.
Nobody like that just because it's cute.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You need to ask yourself what, because a lot of these girls, they've been through some kind of traumatic experience in their life. And a lot of times, because you don't have nobody to talk to, nobody to trust, nobody to express what's going on, you act out. Exactly. You know what I mean? You do things you're not supposed to be doing. You get yourself in trouble.
Yeah.
And these are the things that people need to realize. Recognize the not the triggers. What do you want to call them? You want to call them the red flags or...
Yeah.
You know? See what's going on before you say, oh, why is she bad so?
Yeah.
Oh, she just did that. She's not but a problem.
Yeah.
And another thing I want to talk about too is the fact that boys get molested too, guys.
Yeah.
You know? And that's a very taboo thing. A lot of people don't like to talk about it because they always think it's only the girls. But sweetheart...
The men are going through the same.
Boys go through it too.
Yeah.
You know, and that's another thing too. When you talk about mental health, these is things that need to be in place.
Yeah.
These is things that need to be, said. The children in the school need to constantly hear that there's an adult somewhere that cares about you and that it's okay to speak about uncle, whoever, tanty, whoever.
Exactly.
Because when you hide and you keep it in, you helping that person be a bigger predator.
Yeah.
Because now they're gonna think, I get away with it.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then you over there eating up yourself on the inside. You can't have no healthy relationship because... And another thing too, maybe this conversation might be a little bit PG-13. You know what I mean? But even with that, with the sexual aspect of it, it is difficult for you to really enjoy sex in the beginning. You have to learn that it is okay to have an orgasm. Because one of the things that people don't talk about is when you're being sexually molested to the point of orgasm.
Yeah.
Even if as a child you don't know that the word is orgasm, that happens. And then what they do, because of that, it's a good feeling. They make you like it.
Yeah.
So now you're addicted to this happy feeling.
Yeah.
And then you don't know. You don't even know what's going on. You don't even know that you could become pregnant. You don't know that all you know is something being touched and it makes you feel good.
Yeah.
those, like I said, grooming, they know exactly what they're doing.
Yeah.
Because if I make you addicted to this piece of sugar, you won't keep coming back.
Exactly.
Even if you don't want to, and even if somebody tell you shouldn't do it,
exactly,
you won't keep coming back.
Yeah.
Because I don't go you where I want.
Exactly. Exactly.
You know? So it took me a while to learn that certain things are okay. Like I told you with certain touches, that it is okay to give yourself, you know, in the right way. Because for a minute, certain things, like I would have flashbacks of certain things, and that would make me feel, you know. And that's another thing that I never really spoke about till like tonight with you.
Yeah.
The flashbacks. Sometimes they hit you out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Sometimes I could be having a great day. Awesome. You know what I mean? Like.
And then just out of the blue.
And just out of the blue. Bap. And it's like, wow. And then it just, you went from an 8, being happy on an 8, to right down to a 2.
Yeah.
You know, and those parts of those things is not controllable.
Yeah.
You know, and unfortunately, it's one of the things that it takes a while. I think probably one of the things that are going to take the longest to, if you want to call it, get over. And then one of the scariest things for me was sometimes you in an intimate setting, and then bap, you have to like really like catch back your thoughts and put yourself back. Hey, I'm here. I'm not there.
Yeah.
We're here now.
Yeah.
You know. But I have a few of those now. I'm happy for that.
Yeah.
And like I tell anybody, you just need the help.
Yeah.
Even if you think, oh, I went through that, I ain't gonna tell nobody that uncle whoever touched me, and I gonna be okay. Even in this little things in your life, when you sit down and you look back and you try to, you know, like put them together, you realize that maybe you reacted a way that you wasn't supposed to react.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say we wasn't supposed to, but you reacted differently than what a normal way of reacting to whatever was.
Yeah.
Those things is what let you know, hey, something is wrong.
Yeah.
And that's why you have asked, and I will say it again. I will keep repeating it tonight. Go and tell somebody, the police, your mother, your auntie.
Yeah.
Tell somebody.
Exactly.
Because when you keep it in, that person is winning. And maybe that person have a whole predator line. Maybe it ain't just you. Maybe it's you and your cousin.
Yeah.
And you don't know that your cousin getting it too because you shame to talk.
Exactly.
Say something. Because sometimes all it takes is one person to say, hey, it's happening to me too. For the rest to decide, you know what? It's happening to me too.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
Sometimes nobody wants to, like again, nobody wants to be, oh, the girl who got molested.
Yeah.
Because for a while it took me to not want to be that girl.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You don't want when people look at you, all they see is, oh, borderline personality.
Yeah.
Oh, she was molested.
Yeah.
Oh, her mother died.
Yeah.
Oh, she look crazy. Oh, you don't want a label. You just want to be you. Like me, I'm Gayle.
Yeah.
I am not my diagnosis. I am not what happened to me in the past. I am not whoever thinks of me.
Exactly.
I know who I am and I stand firm in it.
Exactly.
You understand?
Exactly.
Because it took me a long time to get here. It took me a long time to be comfortable being Gayle. It took me a long time to, even a shirt like this, I wouldn't wear. When I tell you guys, you have no idea the how deep this thing does go.
Yeah.
You guys have no idea.
You think something like that is what, because I know that you held a night for women.
It's nights, actually. You mean Growing Girls Night Out?
Yeah.
It's something that I do, actually. I'm not going to give the date on the next one. A lot of people asking. But let me just say somewhere between July and August, ladies.
Yeah.
And the thing about it is, it started off because I wanted a settings where, whether it be moms, and not just single moms in general.
Yeah. Young
women, even if the older heads wanted to join, where you come and sit and have constructive conversation, not just pong and melee. Constructive conversation, where even business women could share business ideas, where you could collaborate with somebody.
Yeah.
And it was a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
I had it twice. The first one was for cancer awareness and Black History Month.
Yeah.
Because I held the one in February, and then I held another one for mental health awareness in the August. And both of them, Jerry Maduro was my speaker at the mental health awareness one. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it was really good. And the ladies, the feedback has been awesome.
Yeah,
people have been asking, where's the next one? What happened is the government took notice of it.
And they
want to help.
Yeah.
And sometimes, that goes a little slow.
Yeah.
So I do want to keep the next one in August.
Yeah.
And I'll keep you posted.
Yeah.
But it that's the main thing. So just so that the public knows, Growing Girls Night Out, the idea of it is just so that women could dress up pretty, You know, you put on your makeup and you put on your nice little dress.
Exactly.
And you come around other women and you have constructive conversation that when you finish at the end of the night, you could feel full.
Yeah.
Not just full from the food, but full from the information that they get.
Exactly.
And not like an empty barrel, but just sit down and talk about how Mr. Jacobs was with Miss Timber down the road doing what. That's not your business.
Exactly.
You understand? Let's talk about how we could invest, how, when, where, what. You know what I mean? Like that.
Exactly.
So
it definitely looked like something big. The first one I was supposed to be there.
The second one you were supposed to be there.
The second one I was supposed to be there, but my anxiety was through the roof.
You know, actually,
I had different times in my life where, for example, I had an event I had to do for photo shoot. It was like at a gala or something like that, and something happened, and I ended up making it late. I sat down in the parking lot for like 45 minutes. And then Dry went home.
Wow.
And then I called him and said, I get sick, something. Because I couldn't tell you what happened to me. I just didn't want to go inside. So now, let me say somebody booked me for an event. If you tell me it's starting 7, I there from 6:30 because I want people to meet me there, but not me walking when a lot of people there. But that's why also I don't like to do events as much as possible because the thing with people coming in, they just, let me take a picture. That, I don't know what it is, but it is getting.
Everybody have their thing.
Yeah.
Because I also have social anxiety. And a lot of people that see me, they would not know that. Because people who know me think that I'm this big people person. But like I said, people don't know how much energy it does really take to be this person.
Yeah.
If I have to leave the house to go, let's say, Carnival coming up, people don't know how, like, mentally
you gotta prepare yourself.
You have to get ready for outside.
Yeah.
You know? And that's why sometimes when I reach outside, I will go to the bar, I will get my little drinky drink, and get my little courage. And we good to go. We happy for the rest of the night. But people really don't understand social anxiety. It's crippling.
Yeah.
It will listen. The same thing you say. It have times you leave the house, you check it like okay. But if you reach late, and I'm always late, that's my thing. And then people watching you and things, you automatically feel like, okay. Or sometimes you reach somewhere, you're good to go, you hype, you reach, and you're like, okay, ready to go home.
Yeah, exactly. That's another thing too. Because I could have, it had a point where Jacquil was my favorite artist. I could have go to see him in a concert. They reach, I just lose my money because I just couldn't build up the courage to go. Boy. So it's just something that I really have to prep my mind in advance.
A lot of people don't understand that. They just make it. They just think that it's maybe you being weird or you being or you don't like people or something. No, and I'm a big fan of who all there.
Yeah.
Wait, hey, you hook up who all there.
Exactly.
Because one of the things people don't realize too, energy is a legit thing, guys. Energy. When you have to take your energy and then you have to go and mix it with other people who energy shaky, it's a lot. Because when you go and you mix your energy with shaky people energy, if you ain't strong, you coming out of that feeling like a shaky person.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
So when it comes to energy, but one of the things to Jacquil, I will say this. We can't continue to let our anxiety cripple us. Why? Because look how you miss out on your favorite artist.
Yeah.
You understand?
Exactly.
We just miss out on it might seem small, but you just miss out on big things because of that one thing.
Yeah.
And that's another thing too with me, with even speaking out about the abuse and all those other things. I'm going to speak out.
Yeah.
Even if, because before the interview started, I remember telling Jacquil, ask me why you're nervous. Nervous for what?
Yeah.
But the thing is, you still are, because at the end of the day, you still here. Like, I'm still giving a story about not just my life, but other people.
Exactly.
And I don't have no fear, like, oh my God, somebody going to hear the interview and know who my molester is or know who I was talking about.
Yeah.
Are you okay with y'all knowing?
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. It deserves to be out there. It's just because, they have this thing called defamation of character.
Yeah.
Even if we don't live in America, I don't want to be out there calling my molester's name and then police come pick me up and be like, hey, what's going on?
Exactly.
No,
exactly.
I'm not scared to say his name. I'm just, for the sake of whatever you want to call it, whatever the sake is, we just keeping it.
Exactly.
Keeping it the way
I really don't. I think you covered almost everything I wanted to ask you. I'm glad you came to share your story.
Yeah.
But is there
even if it's a little bit all over the place?
That ain't a problem at all. Is there anything you would like to share for persons out there that are afraid to speak up, or just one last message you'd like to leave for people?
Well, it's not really like just one particular message. It's like a few little things. Yeah. When you don't speak out, it's like almost like passing and playing Russian roulette.
Yeah.
You take a shot, they didn't shoot you, but now the gun is in somebody else's hand, which is the molester.
Yeah.
And you know, it's like you're giving them the freedom to, let me just keep doing my thing because she didn't talk, this one didn't talk. Say something.
Yeah.
Never feel like, oh, this happened to me, so this is who I am. Yeah. You are not your circumstances. You are not your sexual or physical or whatever abuse. Yeah. No. Boys, girls, men, women. And I remember when I wrote something on Facebook some time ago. A woman messaged me and she said to me, years ago her uncle molested her and she don't know how to tell her father even to this day. This is a grown woman with kids. And I said, I think one of the kids probably around my age. And I was like, miss, say something.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the things, when you keep your hurt inside, when you keep those toxic things inside, you becoming the monster. Yeah. You become it changing you. And that person out there living their best life, happy as can be. Exactly. And you on the inside eating up yourself and becoming this pile of cancer for no reason.
Exactly.
You know? Exactly. And for any young lady out there who feel like you want to talk to somebody but you're afraid and you want to talk to me, I'm right here. Yeah. You could always send me a message, find me.
Yeah.
You know? And if there's anything that maybe I didn't really cover that you probably want to hear about and you want Jacquil to bring me back, no problem.
Easy.
You know what I mean?
Easy.
Do what you have to do.
So guys,
I'm here to help.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. And like she say, approach her. Don't be afraid to approach and talk to her. Okay. Like I say here on Jacquil Imagery, well, this is the talk, but I say it all the time, capture the moment, watch forever. Thank you. This was episode number 10. I'm glad that episode number 10 could have been something like this because I ask everybody on every interview I do, try to ask something about mental health because I feel like it's just not out there enough.
No, it's not. It's definitely not.
So, like I said to you guys, you can also listen to the episode on Spotify. Make sure you like, share, comment, subscribe, all the good stuff. And I'll see you guys in episode 11 next week. Bless.